Hey guys, Infidel1258 here. Today I'm going to share a clip from a recent live event where we talked in part about Emberglace here, the new conflict airdrop card, and the quality, the caliber, but also just conflicts themselves and the impact on the game. What is it going to do for aura and how is that going to impact land? So this is a pretty multi-dimensional conversation in about a 15-minute video. If that sounds interesting, I recommend you stick around. Otherwise, just check out the full live event, which is an hour and a half long on the channel. Thanks guys. Have an amazing day. God bless. You going to participate in conflicts? I am participating in conflicts. I know wagons are trivial for the next 9 months. I wonder what you mean by that. Wagons are trivial for the next 9 months. And you want to say, think about it. If top are averaging 11 wagons being used, busted aura will definitely be shaken up. Will shake up something of a short squeeze for the complex. Yes, I fully agree. This is an interesting conversation and talking point. I still don't know if I exactly follow you when you use that word trivial with respect to wagons. In fact, I would say it's the exact opposite, because I think you're alluding to it here too. You know, we're talking about every successful wagon being a broken wagon, and it needs to be repaired. And that's a cost of $5-ish now. And like you point to, there's only so much aura. And we know that, you know, there's a multitude of reasons, or a growing number of reasons why we want that aura. And so for all that, we should believe that it's going to be, you know, it's going to start to dry up, right? I think so. I think there's reason to believe that. And so if it starts to dry up, what will that do for, I think the conversation isn't just so much about, it's not so much about the conflicts in general. It's more about the conversation around land activation, probably. And we're almost always like late to the party with respect to these things. One of the things you guys have heard me, if you've followed the channel for a while, you've heard me talk a lot about over my years covering Splinterlands, is that we're late to respond to trends that are developing in front of us. If you're paying attention, you might catch them, and you can move ahead in advance of those trends. But so often the majority of people are not paying attention until it's too late. And so one of those examples might be, maybe it's land activation. You know, we haven't just seen aura produce black foil potions. That was the first piece. We also seen black foil or aura be a factor in the enablement or the beginning of Aura Labs, right? As well as, you know, now those tickets, those lottery tickets, or I forget, auction points as well. So there's auction points, and then there's I forget, lottery ticket isn't the right word, but you know what I mean with respect to turning promo cards into black foil editions. That stuff those are various syncs. And you know, there's going to be more, 100% there's going to be more. And then the broken and repaired, or the process of repairing broken wagons, is another significant sync over the next 9 months. It's going to be a really huge sync. Yeah, it's going to be a really huge sync. One thing I haven't done is even look at this post. Does this show the stats on that card? No. Do we see the stats on this card somewhere? Zyrex, or whatever he's called, the Ember Glace. If his stats are somewhere, I want to see that. So let me know, guys. But back to the first point, the conflicts are interesting because they're interesting for so many reasons. Exciting new cards affecting the meta. But they're also interesting because of what you're pointing to with respect to the battle wagons breaking and what that means because of the, tightness on the marketplace with respect to aura. But to come back to my first point and to finish the conversation, I really think the interesting piece isn't so much exactly how conflicts are going to unfold, but it's more the question of what is going to happen to land in the middle of conflicts unfolding. Because I think we did see increased activity with respect to land, even when we saw the black foil potion conversation begin. And I know for me, months ago now, I started to make that shift toward land because I saw this as being a new focal point for attention. And actually guilds too. I'm hearing enough. This is a separate conversation, and it's a bit more speculative. The land conversation, the conflict conversation, the aura conversation is it's coming, or it has come to a head. I think the guild is going to be the next piece that they've really talked about that I'm pretty interested in seeing. That there's going to be dramatic transformations in the guild, probably new buildings and new ways that we engage with the game that are going to maybe produce, you know, interesting new ways to spend your gladiator points, your merits, or, you know, if you're a guild leader, then there's also the, what are they called? The tokens that you use to build your buildings. Not just merits, but it's been so long since I've looked at this. You know what I mean? There's in-game currency. And so thinking that all through, I'm excited about that. That's a separate conversation though. I won't go too deep down that rabbit hole. Thanks for the comment on the conflicts though. I think you're right. There's going to be an interesting tension in the economy of Aura and within the economy of Splinterlands during and because of the 9-month dropping of a variety of really powerful, overpowered even monsters within Splinterlands, right? That's the thing. It's not just conflicts are interesting. It's that these airdrops are very exciting. And if they're very exciting, people are going to put their conflict wagons to work. And if they do that, then they have to somehow manage that from an economy standpoint, meaning Aura. Merlin's good to see you, pal. Bronze forever. Is this somehow like Bronze Dragon? No, it wouldn't be, because you've got Bronze Dragon's got his own account, and that's how he has his YouTube. Good to see you, Bronze. Good to see you, Merlin's. Appreciate you, X. Paul, thanks for popping through. Merlin's. You can see the stats in your collection. Okay. Okay, so I can go to my collection. I can open up the card as if it's like in my collection. Let's try that. There he is. Wow. This is my first time seeing this card. Over the last month, I've been playing Splinterlands, and I've been tracking, but I haven't seen this card yet. Wow. My initial reaction is excitement. Hey, looks like a beast. This is only level 1. That's impressive. Now, let me see the full thing, the full kit and caboodle. Can I go over to Peak Monsters and see the same thing? There it is. Let me read this a little bit here. So at 10 mana, Emberglace has 5 melee attack as well as 2 magic damage output with a significant hit point of 10 and 4 armor and 4 speed. Wow. First of all, this looks like a strong card if that were the top, if that were the maxed out version of it. I mean, sure, it's a little low on abilities for the current sort of, you know, iteration of power creep and all that. Like this would be underpowered in some ways, but you would find a place for this in certain scenarios with the good amount of hit points and that damage output. You know, even if this, and that speed even is very reasonable. The incendiary is almost not a problem. One of my first reactions here, almost not a problem because of the base hit point capacity. You know, that's going to take 5 turns to burn you down. Considering the damage available at bronze, I would say that's going to be a card that'll really impress, you know, bronze warriors. You guys are going to be, you know, really enjoying that if you can get your hands on a copy of this. What else? Charge is, oh, what an amazing level 2 ability for this thing, hey? Because you get that melee damage, which is the most meaningful contributor of damage output from this thing, from a rear position. From a Silver League, that just makes this thing a Silver League beast. Now, I know 10 mana is quite hard, and at those lower league levels, you're not necessarily going to always have, you know, 99 mana. In fact, it's quite rare to have access to that. But 10 is not 18 or whatever, right? Like Rage is 16, doesn't it? Like there's some pretty expensive cards nowadays. For 10, I actually think this is, you know, relatively affordable these days from what I'm seeing, and even like within the context of, yeah, what's available. Let's put it that way. But then charge activates that from the back line. So you get the double damage output from the 5th, 6th spot and a reasonable tank. And then with the incendiary too, it's great because you can bury it. If you have to put it at the front, you're going to incendiary your second line, and you're going to like help your opponent tear down your front line, which is often your main meat shield. Incendiary, in my opinion, is more safe or appropriate or controlled from the 6th spot. And that way, you know, sure, you're going to burn out your back lines quicker, but those aren't your tanks. They might actually be with taunts and whatnot, but you know, generally speaking, they're not your main force. They're just like, and again, with 10 hit points, I don't think incendiary is going to be a huge problem for him. And then what do we get? Execute. Wow, charge execute is a great combo. So you get them, you unlock the double strike from second position with the silver, second, third, fourth, like any of the backline positions with the charge if you're in silver league, and the execute giving you the double strike potentiality with both of those damage outputs sounds amazing to me. And then finally Bloodlust. Wow. This card looks awesome. And that's just from the abilities with just the base damage that I quoted here, but there's more, isn't there? No, the damage stays high. It stays the same the whole way. Okay. Seems very, I'm almost glad that's the case. If this damage went up and up, like to a 6 and a 4 or 6 and a 5, I would think this would be just a bananas card, like an absolutely broken card. 5 and 2 itself with these combos seems really strong. And then we are seeing not more hit points, which again seems like a wise 10 hit points is plenty. Incendiary is supposed to be a limiter to this card's ability. It always is. Incendiary is like a punitive ability that's supposed to restrict the utilization of the most powerful cards in the game. And Incendiary would fail to work or become less impactful if you got like 20 hit points. So if we started at 10, went 12, 14, 16, suddenly who cares if it's got Incendiary in some sense, right? And so, but the growth of armor is helpful. And still serves that sort of function of leveling you up as you go. Can you ever place armor strike on this thing? No, right? Because EMP is white and blue, and you can't use EMP with a dragon summoner or with a dragon monster, or you can't use it. Yeah. And so no, you wouldn't be able to put armor strike on that. That's too bad. What about speed? Speed stays 4 the whole way. I really like this card. Hey, you guys have probably all seen this 20 times and thought about this already, but for me, it's brand new. I think this is going to be very powerful. What an exciting start for the airdrops. And so, you know, to come back to Red's point about the conflicts and how impactful that's going to be with respect to an aura conversation and what that's going to do maybe to my conversation with how we might activate more and more land plots. I think this is an example of the card quality and power impact that we're going to expect on all of those airdrops. And some of those are going to be summoners, and you're telling me those aren't going to be deeply desired? Yeah, they are. They're going to be super sought after. And that means probably more desire for aura, which means necessarily more either this. It means two things. One, you have two options here, guys. Think this through. I talked about thinking things through before they happen so that you can ready yourself, prepare yourself, position yourself to benefit from coming changes. We've articulated a point for why it's important to have access to conflicts, which means we've articulated a point for why we need aura, because Mage Wagons aren't free. Even if you have them, you can't keep them because they're going to break, and then you're going to need more of them. And so that should mean activation of more land. And that maybe that means you're not deep enough into a piece of the game that perhaps you've been sleeping on. You know, I'm growing what I'm doing in land, and this is one example to me of how I've chosen rightly. It looks like I'm not seeing any more lag or challenges with the live, so let me know in the chat if you see anything, but I'll do my best. I'm not doing anything peculiar over here. Just got my music playing and my camera going. Let's keep going through the chat here. Yes, you're right. Trivial isn't the word. Top players set the floor for wagons. Very interesting before new Archons. Absolutely. The new Archon conversation, because if we think Emberglace is an exciting card, when we see those summoners, man, that's going to totally go, you know, it's going to totally throw things. What's the market saying on these things? Last time I saw the what are they called? Mage Wagon repair kits or whatever was like $550. So the wagon kit is $590. And I did see it around $5. And so we're creeping up. And Midnight Potion's still down around 2 cents. I would argue the tension between all of these things, auction marks, fortune tickets, Midnight Potion, and wagons, as well as whatever else is to come, because there will be new things, is going to really, really push the challenge the economy of aura. And that should activate, it should do one of two things. I didn't finish my point there. It's going to do, if I'm right about this, it's going to do one of two things. The first option is people will just pay more money for the existing aura, and rich people will have and poor people won't. But then you have to think that the second alternative would come out of that first one. The second alternative is that more land would become activated to chase after aura production in order to supply the need for the demand. And I think the first one has to happen unless we want to argue that those airdrops are unmeaningful, not desirable. And I just think if you look at Emberglace, you can't draw that conclusion. That card's too good. And so for me, I say like, this is a predictable moment, or there's a certain amount of predictability to this moment that should lead to certain conclusions about aura, as well as probably land. I'm making actions towards what I think is the natural outcome of what I just described.